the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Kayode Okekiolu.
Tonight, a four-story building under construction collapses in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. An unconfirmed number of people feared trapped. Police shoot tear gas to disperse supporters of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi in Ebonyi State. The state government denies ordering police action as other Peter Obi support groups march in Abia, Imo, Bayelsa, and Plateau states. Major humanitarian crisis looms in Borno State as flood takes over houses, roads, and other infrastructure in some communities across the state. And ahead of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral on Monday, her 8 grandchildren, including Princess Williams and Harry, hold a vigil at her lying-in state at Westminster Hall.
And on business news tonight, federal government reiterates commitment to implementing recommendations to stop agro-export rejection.
On sports news tonight, Son Heung-min came off the bench to score a second-half hat-trick as Tottenham trashed Leicester City 6-2 in the English Premier League, ending his goal drought.
We begin on a rather sad note from the South with the news of a 4-story building under construction which collapsed in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, this evening. The building located on Iman Street off Akka Road in the capital city fell on another building next to it. Eyewitnesses and residents of the area who spoke to Channels Television said the incident happened at about 6 p.m. But there are indications that some of the people who are working inside the building are still trapped in the rubble. Operatives of the State Fire Service have commenced rescue operations at the site about 2 hours after the incident happened. Well, this is the first building collapse in Uyo since the Reina Church building, which collapsed on December the 10th, 2016. Well, it's a developing story, and we'll bring you more details as soon as we have them. And now to politics. It was another day of solidarity rallies in various parts of the country in support of the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. From Ebonyi to Abia and Imo states in the southeast, to Bayelsa in the south-south and Plateau state in the north-central, the various groups of supporters turned out in their numbers to declare their stance ahead of the 2023 elections. However, in Abakaliki, the Ebonyi state capital, the police shot tear gas to disperse the peaceful march, but this was short-lived as the supporters continued their march thereafter.
Supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate gather at the Mile 50 in Abakaliki, the Ebonyi state capital, to kick off their march. Shortly after, the exercise is interrupted as the police fire tear gas to stop them from going into major streets of the Ebonyi state capital. Eventually, they regroup and continue with the rally. One of the supporters claims that some people were injured in the incident and accuses the state government of being behind the police action.
Peacefully, we were conducting ourselves, and all of a sudden, the police started shooting tear gas on us, dispersing people. So many persons have been injured. A lot are in the hospital already, but we are still here as peace-loving people, and we are determined to show our solidarity to our candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. The police officer that came didn't give us any specific reason, but I heard him very clearly quoting the governor as saying that no such movement should hold today in Abakaliki, and that anybody who tries to do any kind of march in the state today will be ruthlessly dealt with.
Imo State is not left out in the solidarity march as the Labour Party supporters also hit the streets.
Obi has structure, Obi has the movement, Obi has the people, and Obi has the mandate of all Nigerians yearning for good governance. And in 2023, we are going to enthrone good governance in Nigeria.
neighboring Abia State, another group of Peter Obi supporters also take to the streets of Umuahia, the state capital, in a solidarity march. Tagged Abia 1 Million Man Freedom March, the march takes off from Abia Tower and the Enugu Port Harcourt Expressway through Michael Okpara Square to other parts of the state capital. The coordinators of the march say the turnout shows that the Obi Dirty movement has a structure. Over to the south-south, hundreds of the Labour Party presidential candidate supporters are also out in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital. Beginning at the Tombia roundabout in the heart of Yenagoa, they stage a 45-minute walk, chanting different songs as they make their way to Peace Park, opposite the Bayelsa State Government House. They say it's time to take back the country and change the narrative.
We are tired of all what we are going through, so we want to make a change. We don't want to wait for money before we change our country.
It's a genuine crowd that has PVC. Nobody is giving chichi, and we are not taking chichi. By the special grace of God, we are going to win.
The solidarity march is not limited to the south, as up north in Jos, the Plateau State capital, various support groups stormed the Secretariat Junction flyover, dancing to various songs before proceeding on a walk around major roads and causing traffic jam in the process. Some of the support groups had earlier converged on the Rwangpam Township Stadium in Jos for a prayer and fitness walk for good governance before joining others at the Secretariat Junction flyover. Made up of both the young and old, the group marched with enthusiasm in support of the Labour Party presidential flag bearers.
We're out to show our support for Peter Obi. We believe that, he's the best candidate among all the candidates, and there has been doubts that he doesn't have supporters. He doesn't have a structure. So this is our show of force to show that he has supporters and that he can win this election. The
various support groups say the rallies are to demonstrate that they are the structure that the Labour Party needs to emerge victorious in the 2023 general elections.
Meanwhile, the Ebonyi state government has been reacting to the claim that it ordered the disruption of the march by supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate in Abakaliki. The Commissioner for Information in the state, Mr. Ochina Oji, told Channels Television that the allegation is false, maintaining that the governor did not order the action by the police. He, however, said the police may have acted to forestall a breakdown of law and order.
That is not true. And the rumors going around that the government of Ebonyi State had a hand in the little problems that the rallying members of Labour Party had today in Ebonyi State. I can tell you categorically that the governor of Ebonyi State, who is not even in the state today, is a believer of democracy. He believes in the rule of law, and he has been doing everything possible to give enabling environment to all political parties. I think what happened in this case of Labour Party that had a rally today was that I think there were some infiltrations by some politicians who were rejected in other political parties. They came to Labour Party. Of course, it's a squabble of who will be in charge. I think that was what caused that very situation of uproar, and the police had to come in. And of course, given the nature of the place they were, required that there should be order. And how that could have been the reason why police had to really interfere. You will recall that even despite the rumors and the falsehood peddled, calling names all over the place, that they still had their rally, even though it was a very small number. And so that goes to show that the Ebonyi State gives every political party enabling environment. For me, I think that Labour Party in Ebonyi State has a lot of problems. A lot of people who left their contest in other political parties came. And this is what is causing the kind of disorderliness that we are seeing in the Labour Party in Ebonyi State.
And elsewhere, reactions continue to trail the claims by the spokesman of the Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP, on alleged inflation of the voter register with fictitious names in Omoma community in Imo State. But the latest is from the state's Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Mr. Declan Emenumba, who described the allegation as baseless and unfounded. Addressing journalists in Owerri, the Imo State capital, he called for the arrest of the CUPP spokesperson over his claim. Elsewhere, at a separate news conference, the Imo State chapter of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, also reacted to the allegation. Ahead of the 2023 general elections, the electorate in Kogi State have been asked to shun vote selling, so only credible leaders with the capacity to deliver dividends of democracy to the people can emerge. The Chief Executive Officer of Connected Development, Mr. Hamzat Lawal, stated this in Okene Central Senatorial District, where he addressed women and youth groups on the importance of collecting their voter cards and voting for credible candidates.
Officials of Connected Development, a civil society organization, are in Okene to kickstart a door-to-door, house-to-house and ward-to-ward enlightenment advocacy for the collection of permanent voter cards, PVC, as well as to educate the electorate ahead of the 2023 general election on the need for them to shun electoral malpractices and violence. The leader of the team describes vote buying and selling as a great threat to the political development of Nigeria, as he urged voters, especially women, to resist any attempt by politicians to deceive them by voting for people they can hold accountable for their stewardship.
With our permanent voters card and with INEC's new 2022 Electoral Act signed by Mr. President, what this means is power has now been taken to the grassroots with electronic transmission of results. So today, we're mobilizing, we're sensitizing and educating people and organizing better to say that with our permanent voters card, we will not only change the course of Nigeria, but the history. A lot of young people at home because of the crisis between our federal government and ASU. And we want to use this opportunity to say that the future of Nigeria is in our hands. And we are going to do door-to-door, house-to-house campaign to get people to collect their permanent voters card. But most importantly, on election day, they come out and cast their ballots to decide their future and the future of this great country. That if politicians that are corrupt come and try to induce you by providing you with rice, beans, wrappers, salt, you reject them.
One of the participants commended the organization for the pre-campaign enlightenment meeting, promising not to sell their votes.
As he come today, he told us that we should not sell our vote. We should vote for the right people of our choice. And we too support that. There are no women that I'm moving with. I told them that they should not sell their vote. Because by selling our vote, you may not have rights when the person is voted in. Because whenever we sell our vote, when they go there, all the money that they have spent for us, they will recover it before they continue, before we come and take care of us.
With the 2023 general elections fast approaching, the need for voters to shun violence and electoral malpractice remains key to the success of the elections.
Well, to party politics now, it appears that the call for the resignation of the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party by some members and leaders of the party in the South may not be reflective of the desires of the entire region. But this is just as some leaders of the party in Ondo, Osun, Ogun, Ekiti and Lagos are dissociating themselves from the call for his resignation. According to the leaders, internal wranglings at this stage may end up scuttling efforts to win the 2023 election. They are asking aggrieved members of the party in the region to sheath their sword and rally support for all candidates of the party to win at the poll. They were speaking during a press briefing in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial nerve center. Well, in part two, after the break, governors of northeast states raised the alarm over influx of terrorists fleeing military bombardments in the northwest into their region. That's in a moment. Stay with us. back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 and coming to you live from Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. A 4-story building under construction collapses in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. An unconfirmed number of people feared trapped. Police shoot tear gas to disperse supporters of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi in Ebonyi State. And state government denies ordering police action as other Peter Obi support groups march in Abia, Imo, Bayelsa and Plateau states. Major humanitarian crisis looms in Borno as flood takes over houses, roads and other infrastructure in some communities across the state. And ahead of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral on Monday, her 8th grandchildren, including Princess Williams and Harry, hold a vigil at her lying-in state at Westminster Hall. Now, just how emotional can one get when Nigeria's security situation is being discussed? Well, the former chief security officer to the late head of state, General Sani Abacha, Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, displayed much of that today as he struggled to hold back tears during a meeting with the coalition of Northern Christian women in Abuja. The presidential candidate of the Action Alliance also gave some insight into the killings in parts of the north, including Kaduna and Benue states.
It's a normal courtesy call by the leadership of the coalition of Northern Christian women on the presidential candidate of the Action Alliance, Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, at his residence in Abuja.
Thank you, Excellency.
The delegation is here to assure the host of their support in the forthcoming general elections because they believe he has the capacity to address the insecurity in the northern part of the country.
Women are suffering. A lot of things are happening in this country which negate the progress of this country. When the security is okay, everybody can have his livelihood. God has given talents to individuals, but your own talent precisely is on security.
While thanking the group for their vote of confidence, the Army Major could not hold back his tears as he talks about the state of insecurity in the country.
I'm seated next to you. You are a sister. Amongst you are mothers. We will die protecting you. We will die. We, as a country.
After composing himself, the former chief security officer drops another bombshell on insecurity in northern Nigeria.
The causes of the problems in Kaduna State are just two mountains. Mountains that God Almighty has created. In these mountains, God has kept resources in it. There is a particular precious stone in those two mountains. Fulanis innocently who have been there from only God knows the generations, whenever they wishes to take it out of it, they pay money to some certain people to go and shoot them overnight. And then they will shoot some neighboring villages. The villages and the Fulanis will give way. Then people will go into the mountains to take these stones and they take it to the international market. And they are making money. So if you see trouble in Kaduna, trouble in Benue, they are taking lithium and rhodium. But there must be a reason to give it a cover. So we are meant to fight. We are meant to hate ourselves. We are meant to get confused. And some certain elders in Nigeria are part of this international cover. And we give it a different name in newspapers.
On the sideline of the meeting, the group explains how they will mobilize support for the presidential candidate of the Action Alliance.
We've decided to streamline our activities back to the grassroots, looking for the women from the grassroots, the Muslim women and the Christian women, to come up in large numbers to vote for our candidates.
It's less than 2 weeks to the commencement of campaigns for the 2023 general elections, and these women believe that the period will provide an opportunity for citizens to ask candidates critical questions on how they plan to resolve the problems in the country.
Meanwhile, governors of the Northeast have raised the alarm over the influx of bandits from the Northwest region to the Northeast, and they are urging the federal government to urgently launch a security strategy to tackle the growing threat. They've also resolved to regulate mining activities in the region, which they say contributes to the present security challenges being faced. But these were some of the issues raised at the end of the Northeast Governors meeting in Gombe State. In a 9-point communique, which was issued and read by the Governor of Yobe State, Mai Malam Buni, the governors also appealed to the federal government for urgent intervention to communities ravaged by flooding.
The forum noted the relative peace being experienced in the sub-region, especially the reduced incidences of farmer-herders clashes, as encouraging. However, there is increasing vulnerability of the region to insecurity due to the mass movement of the bandits who are gradually being pushed out of the northwest by the security forces. On the influx of the bandits, there is an urgent need to launch a coordinated security roadmap in conjunction with the security agencies and the federal government. The forum noted the link between mining activities and insecurity, especially the abuse of the mining leases. It therefore resolved to ensure strict compliance with the provisions of the Land Use Act. The forum again expressed concern on the balanced state of power supplied in the Northeast region, which at present receives less than 5% of national allocation of grid energy, while accounting for 14% of the population and 30% of land mass. While noting the direct acceleration between energy security and high level of poverty and our GDP status, it called on the federal government to introduce innovative strategies for investing in the production of comparatively cheaper hydropower and renewable energy.
The Borno State is on the verge of a major humanitarian crisis arising from flooded houses, roads and other infrastructure in some communities across the state. Well, this has led to the displacement of thousands of residents and the destruction of farmlands within Maiduguri, the state capital, as well as the death of residents and loss of property worth millions of naira. The state government has attributed the severe impact of this year's flood to the erection of buildings and waterways, thereby blocking free passage of water. Severe flooding has become a recurring nightmare to residents of Maiduguri in the last few weeks. But the current experience has surpassed anything seen in the past 28 years. Communities like Maduganari, Gwange, Dala, Ngomari, Dusuma, Zabamari and Adamari in Maiduguri and Jere local government areas have seen their homes and roads ravaged by floods, leaving many residents displaced.
This is exactly 28 years after the 1994 flood disaster. So we are already in a humanitarian crisis.
According to the Coordinator Disaster Management of the Nigerian Red Cross in Borno State, the increasing casualty figure, mostly among the children and youth, has compelled the organization to deploy its personnel to flood-prone areas to avert further disasters.
We have deployed our men to various locations where children and other adolescents are playing on the river. So that's why you see our people. We are sensitizing the host communities there, and we are also stopping the children from playing in the river.
Farmlands have also been destroyed by the heavy rains, thereby threatening the efforts of government in promoting agricultural activities in communities liberated from insurgency.
Water levels in even our rivers have risen. You know, these are things they are already moving around their natural course. But so what we are doing is all the roads we are doing, we construct them and link them to drainages, to outfalls, that is like rivers or ponds that the waters drain into, away from the communities.
Meanwhile, residents in the state capital, Maiduguri, may have more to contend with in the next few weeks because the management of Alau Dam and River Ngadabul has announced that the water bodies are overflooded and as such will be opened to allow free flow of water. Also, Health Matters medical experts under the aegis of the Medical and Dental Consultants Association are asking the government to, as a matter of urgency, do more to encourage health workers stay in the country. Well, some of the issues they want addressed are retirement age, hazard allowance, and salary of honorary consultants who are clinical lecturers. Well, they stated this at a meeting in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Our correspondent Jessica Lubusere reports.
The exodus of healthcare workers, in particular consultants in various fields from Nigeria to other countries, is a key concern this group, the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, has chosen to address in this meeting in Benin City, the Edo State capital, South Nigeria.
Problems in the health sector remain largely unresolved by the government, with healthcare workers leaving the shores of the country in droves to more secured climes with better conditions of service. 3, we observe the apparent intention of the relevant government agencies to engender disruption of services in secondary and tertiary institutions across the country by their failure to implement payment of approved hazard allowance, pay outstanding arrears occasioned by skipping, extend the retirement age of health workers to limit ongoing massive brain drain in the health sector, failure to correct the shortfall in salaries of honorary consultants who are clinical lecturers in the university, and many other outstanding issues.
Away from the gathering, this consultant at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, also in Benin City, explains that a lot goes into the making of a consultant. One reason the brain drain in this area is worrisome.
Altogether, we are talking about an average of 6 to 10 years post-NYSC, and then you'll be appointed. After you're appointed, you start as a consultant. Averagely, around the age of 35, 40, that's when the consultant starts. So these are the final key, the final voice. When it comes to patient management, they have the final say.
He highlights the grave impact of brain drain among this group of professionals.
In the last 2 years, more than 500 consultants or senior doctors have left the shores of Nigeria for greener pastures. And the main problems causing it, one, poor remuneration, poor pay. It's mostly affecting the younger ones. So leaving only the middle age and the elderly ones behind. That's why we are also canvassing for increased age of retirement for consultants. So with the younger consultants having left, the elderly ones, by the time they are getting to 60 and about to retire, by the time they are 55, 50, they think they just have 5 or a few more years. They also want to emigrate.
The experts believe that government needs to take urgent steps to tackle the challenges propelling the exodus of specialists in the health sector to avert the crisis brain drain in this sector portends. Jessica Lubusere, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with health matters, the federal government has reiterated its commitments to rebuild in the Northeast following the devastation caused by over a decade-long insurgency. The pledge was made by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timipre Silva, who represented the President at the commissioning of the Radiography Center at the Modibo Adama University Teaching Hospital, Yola, the Adamawa State capital. According to him, the handing over of the project is a clear demonstration of the federal government's efforts to provide the necessary infrastructure and services in the country.
In continuation of his working tour in Adamawa State, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources is set to inspect ongoing projects and commission completed ones, all of which have been funded by the federal government's oil and gas sector's intervention program. Accompanied by officials of the ministry, the team arrives at the Modibo Adama University and is received by the Chief Medical Director, Professor Awal Abubakar, and other senior management staff of the institution. They embark on a facility tour of projects including the radiology complex, the intensive care unit, histopathology laboratory units, and the neonatal unit, among others.
This radiology complex is hereby commissioned to the glory of God and for the benefit of Adamawa people and all Nigerians in general.
After which the minister commissions the project, a facility he believes will enhance the training of medical students.
Security problems of the Northeast, our industry decided to intervene in alleviating the problems of the Northeast, and this is part of our intervention. Not only in Adamawa, in a lot of places, the President Muhammadu Buhari approved for us to ensure that we're able to intervene in the Northeast to be able to rebuild and rehabilitate the region after the devastation of Boko Haram.
The Chief Medical Director appreciates the federal government for the intervention.
Most of the projects are nearing completion, and the standard and quality of work has been excellent from the beginning. So we are looking forward to the completion of all these projects, and I have assured the Honorable Minister that all the facilities will put to judicious use for the benefit of mankind.
There are about 58 projects being executed in Adamawa State, funded by the federal government's oil and gas intervention program, with most of them close to completion. The minister also inspects the Nana Asmal Primary Health Care Center in Yola South local government area of the state.
Over to Taraba State, where the European Union says it will not relent on its efforts to boost food security and resilience in the state. That's despite pockets of insecurity on farming communities across the state. At an event to review its performance in collaboration with the Taraba State government, the EU says the synergy is yielding fruits, as over 40,000 vulnerable households are benefiting from its €10 million support in 6 local government areas of the state. The priority areas for the EU in the state are crop, livestock, and fish value chains.
Agricultural development is one of the most powerful tools used to end extreme poverty and boost shared prosperity in rural communities across Nigeria. Over the years, agriculture has been the main drive area, which was hitherto obstructed by the unabating spate of insecurity, ranging from herders, farmers' crisis to ethnic crisis and banditry. Further efforts by the European Union is aimed at ensuring efficient food security and resilience in Taraba, especially with its donation of €10 million to ensure success.
The main objective of the project is to increase the agricultural productivity of our rural farmers and to make them to become resilient to shocks and to be able to be self-sustaining in the activities that they are carrying out.
In achieving this, challenges were also encountered, and these participants seek more from the European Union to ensure that the 54 months program does not end without much impact.
I was faced with a series of financial burden, food shortages, and many more challenges when I was not part of this project. Thanks to the European Union, now my yields have improved.
We have made significant improvement in our farming activities and livestock. Thanks to Brussels and the European Union, we have sufficient fertilizers now.
Meanwhile, the state government says it's closing ranks between farmers and herders through the usage of the Agro Rangers unit of the NSCDC.
We have faced so much insecurity in our implementing LGAs, and it has slowed the progress of this project.
The essence of the Agro Ranger is to see that farms are protected, livestock are also protected. So we are doing everything possible. His Excellency is also doing everything possible to see that all these things are arrested, so that the effort of the farmer will not be in vain. At the end of the day, after suffering all season, at the point of harvest, herders will just come and destroy the farm.
With the synergy between the Taraba State Government and the European Union on food security, it appears food sufficiency and sustainability of peaceful coexistence is in sight once again in Taraba State.
Well, staying with international partnership, the Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria says that strengthening India's bilateral relations with Nigeria remains key to his country's foreign policy. Well, speaking at an event in Abuja to commemorate the Indian Technical and Economic Program ITEC 2022, Ambassador Gangadharan Balasubramanian notes that the ITEC program has been successful in Nigeria over the past 58 years. He says thousands of Nigerians who have benefited from the program are making impact, contributing to the nation's socio-economic development.
It's an event to mark the Indian Technical and Economic Program, which has existed in Nigeria since 1964, and officials of the Indian High Commission and government officials are on hand to celebrate. The iTech program is a human-centric vision which focuses on value addition to individuals and their countries, and Nigerians continue to enjoy the platform it provides as the number of persons engaged in the program continues to rise.
All across the world, this is something that India is proud to say, that we have had so many of you ambassadors who have come over there and studied and come back to your country, and you have been performing so well within your own spheres, contributing to the economy and the development of your country. And having helped in a very small way by impacting a very short-term course and trying to increase the skill of each and every one of you.
While the government is appreciative of the Indian government support through its programs and other bilateral relations, an alumnus of the program speaks on how beneficial the program has been.
At the same time, the head of service actually asked all the permanent secretary to attend the course, the Commonwealth course. But the vocal person happens to be the professor from India. And it taught also that the permanent secretary and the head of service and the permanent secretary actually visited India for the visit. And I learned that what you are doing when it comes to the civil service is top-notch. So I want to also say a big thank you on behalf of the head of service, on behalf of all the permanent secretary.
After the event, the Indian High Commissioner speaks to journalists on how the Indian government plans to expand its opportunities for short courses in the area of defense.
We give around 250 slots on the civilian sector and about 150 slots for training, short-term courses for in the defense sector, and almost all of them have been utilized on a regular basis. So over a period of 58 years, you could also see how this number would have multiplied, and we are very happy to see our friends in Nigeria who have done these short-term courses, equipped themselves, increased their skill levels, and have come back to their country to contribute to the economy and to the development of Nigeria.
The iTech Day 2022 was celebrated with about 250 iTech alumni in attendance. The annual commemoration also gives opportunities to iTech alumni to reconnect, unwind, and put heads together on how to develop the nation.
Well, let's now bring you the latest stories on the news at 10, particularly business. Here's Teniola Oyetayo.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Welcome to Business News. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Adeni Adebayo, says the government remains committed to the implementation of the recommendations of the committee set up to look into the rejection of Nigeria's agro-exports in the international market. Speaking in Abuja during the presentation of the report of the Technical Committee on Nigeria Agro-Exports Reject, the minister explains that the implementation of the committee's recommendations will increase the export basket of agricultural commodities and foreign exchange earnings for the country. In 2015, the European Union Food Safety Authority had banned Nigerian beans as it did not meet the acceptable requirements. Other commodities being exported from Nigeria, such as yams, vegetables, had also been rejected in the international market. Nigeria's FX reserve has recorded another decline as it fell by $228.63 million week on week to $38.69 billion as at September the 15th. The drop in the country's external buffer is largely attributed to a fall in foreign inflows amid Nigeria's low oil production. Meanwhile, some analysts believe that flexibility in the exchange rate will be significant in attracting foreign inflows back to the market. Trading activity at the forex market was mixed this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets fell by 21.17% to about $503.94 million as at September the 16th. Meanwhile, a further breakdown of trading results shows that total value of transactions at the FX spot market, which is the I&E window, rose by 15.5% 1.72% to $391.96 million, while transactions at the FX derivatives market fell by 62.74% to $111.98 million. Similarly, the value of the naira fell by 0.04% to 435 naira 63 kobo against the dollar at the NAFEX window of the forex market, in contrast to 435 naira 44 kobo recorded last week. And now to the domestic equities market, where bearish sentiments continue to dominate trading activities as the all-share index dipped by 0.44% week on week to close at 49,475.42 points. Sell-offs of some banking stocks such as FBN Holdings, Access Holdings, UBA, Zenith Bank and Union Bank led the weekly loss. Now the month-to-date loss currently stands at 0.7%, while the year-to-date gain moderated to 15.8%. Activity levels were weak as trading volume and value declined by 24.3% and 14.1% week on week. Sectoral performance was negative as all the 5 key sectors posted losses. The banking index led the decline with a triple-digit negative close, followed by the insurance, consumer goods, industrial goods, and oil and gas indexes. Multiverse Mining and Exploration topped the gainers chart for the week, while Red Star Express recorded the most significant loss, down 12.59% week to date. The financial services sector drove markets volume and value this week as Courtville Business Solutions, Zenith Bank, and Access Holdings made it to the top 3 list. Similarly, the NASD OTC Securities Exchange Index closed the week deeply in the red. The NASD Securities Index tumbled more than 2% as about 20 billion naira was wiped off the market capitalization. However, volume and value of stocks traded rose sharply. Volume rose to about 190 million units, valued at 490 million naira, and transacted in 52 deals. 11 PLC topped the gainers chart this week, followed closely by NIPCO PLC and 2 others, while NASD PLC led the underperforming stocks. Meanwhile, Mixer Real Estate and IGI PLC were among top 5 stocks traded by volume for the week. And Ukraine's infrastructure ministry says the 3rd vessel chartered by the United Nations World Food Programme has left Ukraine's Chornomorsk Black Sea port today with around 30,000 tons of wheat on board. According to the ministry, the vessel is headed for Ethiopia, which is on the verge of a food crisis. The country's grain exports have slumped since the start of the war because its Black Sea ports, a key route for shipments, were closed off, driving up global food prices. The ministry adds that it plans to export another 190,000 tons. At the end of July, 3 Black Sea ports were under a deal between Moscow and Kyiv, brokered by the United Nations and Turkey. And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Uitayo. It's back to Kayode for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Teniola. The president will depart Abuja tomorrow to New York, where he's expected to join other world leaders at the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly in the United States. A statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, explains that President Muhammadu Buhari will deliver a national statement on the 2nd day of the general debates on September the 21st. The UN General Assembly, which opened on September the 13th, is focusing on key topics such as the current global energy crisis, climate action, ending the COVID pandemic, and a special Transforming Education Summit. The president is also scheduled to participate in high-level meetings and side events, including the Nigeria International Economic Partnership Forum, which is convened by Nigeria in partnership with the Business Council for International Understanding. Others are strengthening coordination through National Humanitarian Development Peace Framework, organized by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, and the EFCC NEPAD program on combating illicit financial flows. President Buhari will be accompanied on the trip by the First Lady Aisha, some governors, ministers, as well as top government officials, and is expected back in the country on September the 26th. Meanwhile, the Vice President will represent Nigeria at a number of events tomorrow and Monday during the state funeral for the late Queen Elizabeth II in the United Kingdom. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who left the nation's capital Abuja today, will join members of the royal family and other world leaders, including members of the Commonwealth, heads of state, governors general, prime ministers, and foreign royal families at the ceremonies. Before the funeral service on Monday, the Vice President will be among guests and dignitaries to be received by King Charles III and Queen Consort Camilla at a reception in Buckingham Palace tomorrow. He will also hold a bilateral meeting with the UK Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly. Well, let's switch gears now on the news at 10. It's time for Sports News with Victor Mathias.
Thank you, Kaede, and welcome to Sports News. Now, after 10 days of football competition at the Betsy Obaseki football tournament in Benin City, Robo Queens have emerged winners of the competition. Robo Queens beat Edo Queens 1-0 at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium on Friday evening to clinch the top prize. The winners were presented with a 5 million naira check.
The Betsy Obaseki Women's Football Tournament takes center stage at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City. Dignitaries, invited guests, stakeholders, female football lovers and journalists are all present for the grand finale. The second edition of the yearly football tournament drives the government's campaign against drug abuse and illicit trafficking.
I welcome you all to the closing ceremony and the final match for the Betsy Obaseki Women's Football Tournament 2022. And I remind us all about the theme for this year's tournament, which is for every one of us to say no to drugs.
Initiator of the tournament and wife of the governor of Edo State, Mrs. Betsy Obaseki, receives commendation for making the competition an annual event.
What we see here today is beautiful, is excellent. When you benchmark it, this is exactly what you get either in the UK, in Europe, whether it's in America. We see the standard, we see the stadia, and it's marvelous.
Sports is extremely important for developing the self-esteem and leadership skills of young women. We are very pleased that she has chosen to champion this field, and we are pleased that it is linked every year to a theme for social change. This year the message is say no to drugs.
He is about to take the ceremonial kickoff. He moves, she takes a powerful one, she has done.
After a keenly contested final, Robo Queens emerge winners of the tournament.
Delta Queens. That whistle from the referee signaled for the end of this game of the 2022 Betsy Obaseki Women's Football Tournament. FC Robo.
No doubt, the Betsy Obaseki Football Tournament creates an environment which helps female football to thrive in Nigeria.
Congratulations to the winners. Now, the Premier League returned this weekend, and before kickoff, all three games decided today paid respects to Queen Elizabeth II. At the Molineux Stadium, Manchester City and Wolverhampton Wanderers paid their respects as players and fans held a minute silence followed by a rendition of the national anthem. And at St. James's Park, Newcastle United, Bournemouth players, fans and coaches also held a minute silence for the late monarch with rendition of God Save the King. And at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the hosts and visitors, Leicester City, all paid their respects to the late Queen Elizabeth II before kickoff. Now to the game's proper. Son Heung-min ended his Premier League goal drought with a sensational second-half hat-trick as Tottenham routed Leicester City in a 6-2 rampage. The South Korean forward came off the bench after the break to seal the show in a remarkable performance that saw him net 3 goals inside 14 minutes. The loss leaves Leicester, that's their boss, Brendan Rodgers, under increasing pressure, having conceded 22 goals and are winless in their first 7 league games of the season. Elsewhere, Haaland made it 11 goals in 7 league games for Manchester City and 14 and 10 overall in the routine 3-0 victory over Wolverhampton Wanderers, with Jack Grealish and Phil Foden also scoring, while the game between Newcastle and Bournemouth ended 1-1. In form, Francesco Bagnaia has set a lap record to lead a Ducati front row lockout in Aragon Grand Prix, qualifying in Alcanis as his title rivals Alex Espargaro and Fabio Quartararo ended up on the second row. Winner of the last 4 races posted a time of 1.46 to snatch pole B, with 0.09 seconds from Ducati factory teammate Jack Miller, and Gresini Racing's Enea Bastiani completed the front row. Honda rider Marc Marquez, a 6-time MotoGP champion, finished 13 on his return to the racing after recovering from surgery and missing the last 6 rounds of the championship. Well, that's a wrap on Sports News. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Kaide, who incidentally has indicated interest to coach Cecilia Marachi Teniola and a host of other ladies at next year's Betsy Obaseki Championship. Kaide?
Goodness, Victor. Well, on the foreign scene now, the Queen's 8 grandchildren, including the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Sussex, have stood vigil around her coffin as she lies in state at Westminster Hall. It is the first time in history that the grandchildren of a monarch have taken part in the ceremony. Well, on Friday evening, the Queen's children, including the King, took part in a similar vigil, standing guard for about 10 minutes.
Following in the footsteps of their parents, the Queen's 8 grandchildren entered Westminster Hall and walked slowly towards the late grandmother's coffin to observe their vigil. William, the Prince of Wales, stood at the head of the coffin. Prince Harry, who is no longer a working royal, wore military uniform after a request from his father, the King. The King's sons were joined by cousins Zara Tindall and Peter Phillips, Princesses Beatrice and Eugene, and Lady Louis Windsor and her brother, Viscount Severn. With the tap of a soldier's sword on stone, time was up. They finished their vigil and followed Prince William back out of the hall. Hundreds of thousands of people have lined up for long hours in a queue stretching 6 miles, waiting to file past the coffin. Earlier in the day, the estimated waiting time stood at 16 hours. Despite this, mourners are undeterred, with many staying in line overnight amid chilly temperatures.
Felt compelled to be here, just had to be here. She served so faithfully for 70 years, and so having to stand in line in the queue for likely 14 hours, really not that much, in comparison to what she did for us. Yeah.
I travelled down from New Yorkshire, north of England, yesterday for it, and we've been queuing all night long, kind of thing. So it's going to be nice but very emotional at the same time.
World leaders such as Australia's Anthony Albanese and Canada's Justin Trudeau also attended the line-in state ahead of the Queen's State funeral on Monday. Earlier, King Charles and Prince William greeted some of those queuing to pay their respects to the Queen.
This was totally unexpected this morning. I've been queuing up since 1 o'clock in the morning and arrived here and just didn't expect this at all. So it's just a fantastic thing to have happened, and I've been really lucky to experience that.
The Queen is to lie in state until Monday morning, the day of her state funeral. Around 500 foreign dignitaries, including world leaders and royals, are expected to attend the service at Westminster Abbey.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says Ukraine's recent counteroffensive will not change Russia's plans. It's his first public comments on the matter. In a rapid counterattack, Ukrainian forces say they captured over 8,000 square kilometers in 6 days in the northeastern Kharkiv region. But Mr. Putin says he's not in a hurry, and the offensive in Ukraine's Donbas region remains on track. He also notes that Russia has so far not deployed its full forces. And the main news again. A 4-story building under construction today collapsed in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, with an unconfirmed number of people feared trapped in the rubble as efforts by emergency workers continue to rescue the victims. Also today, the police shot tear gas to disperse supporters of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi in Ebonyi State. The state government denied ordering the action by the police, and this came as other Peter Obi support groups marched in Abia, Imo, Bayelsa, and Plateau states. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Good night.